Alright, get it straight, get it straight. Hold on, get it straight. Oh shit, my room dirty though. Don't worry about my room though. Where's Bond? Where's Bond? Where got shot? This is crazy looking at. Where does Bond be? Hold on, what if I had it joint like an extender like this? Not a good. I guess right. Oh shit. Alright, come on. So we got this right here. I gotta pull up chat though. It's John L. Alright, we're gonna have a different setup soon. Where does Bond? So let's see what's going on here though. I'm about to eat some food right now. So how y'all doing? How y'all doing? For me, I know nobody might be watching, but if you is, you know what it is, you mean? Let me see what it is. Okay. I know music. Alright, what's up, y'all? Let's see here. So, Jagging and she gonna cheat. I look at one, I ain't gonna lie. Hold on, I gotta find something. This is interesting right now. I'm about to watch a podcast.
Had the conversation on the podcast with Vanessa about body language. One of the things that I saw in the comment section was people pointing out that in different cultures, different rules apply. It's kind of what I was saying earlier about being British. We're a bit more conserved. Do you need to sort of overlay all this advice with cultural nuance?
100%. A motivational speaker from America coming to Australia doesn't work well. Because if they come to Australia, they're like, oh, get on your feet, let's start. Like, Australians are very skeptical like us in the UK. And we're going to sit back, we're like, yeah, nah, mate, we just started.
Wait. Y'all telling me the whole time y'all can't see this? Alright, yeah, hold on.
You're streaming?
Yeah.
Have a nice dream.
There you go. I'm trying to figure out this right here. Maybe window capture. W. W right here. Let's hold the screen here. Nah, what's Epic the musical? My fault, yeah. I'm over here setting up this thing for TikTok. Not me net. What's that though? I'll search it up right now. My fault. Matter of fact, let me see this though. Where's Bond? I could really pick another one. Alright, now I'm saying. Alright, I'm gonna put it on right now. Got you, bro. My fault. I'm over here trying to see how to do this too. It's not the time though, but shake my head. I got you. Think it's this is the one. There we go. There we go. That's lit. Alright, say no more. I'm gonna search it up. Epic the musical. Whoa, chat. I don't know if I'm gonna watch this joint, buddy. So I don't really know about him. So like cop, some shit with a cop. Fucking mess it up. Alright, hold on. Also, still hold on. I'll put it in the microwave. What is wrong? The fact is, I like eating my celery first. So let's see here. We're gonna put on The Secret to Creativity.
What's the movie that we have never seen because you haven't made it? And make that movie.
Years ago when I first heard this, I took it as a challenge, like Tarantino was saying, go make something the world's never seen before. Something bold, something completely original. And for a long time, that's what I chased. I believed that true artistry was about being a visionary, about originality. But over time, that interpretation started to fall apart. You soon realize that every story has already been told. There are only a handful of basic plots and so on. But if originality wasn't the key,
then what was my role as an artist? What made anything I created worth it? This question stuck with me, and it sent me searching. That's when something came to mind. This is for Elise by Beethoven. You've definitely heard it before, maybe in a music class, maybe in an elevator, but there's this interesting thing about it. This melody feels kinda
Happy, makes you feel
inevitable,
happy.
like it always existed. And Ludwig van just happened to be the one to catch it. And I had this thought, if he hadn't written it, maybe someone else eventually would have. Could another composer have come up with the same tune? Probably.
Not.
But it would have sounded different.
It wouldn't have sounded
It would
the
have
same.
carried a different emotional weight.
Yeah.
Because the person behind it, whoever they were, would have brought their own interpretation. And that's when something clicked. Maybe ideas, themes, stories, they already exist. But what turns them into art is how you interpret them. How you frame them, feel them, structure them. Let me show you what I mean. Take the film Gravity. On the surface, it's a space movie, but it didn't really start that way.
What's going on, TJ?
Alfonso Cuarón had been working on a personal, intimate art house project. It fell apart, no financing, no backup plan, and suddenly he was broke.
I told Jornal, I need to write something right now, but no arty shit. I need to write something that can be appealable for a studio just to pay a check now for me to keep on going. And he said, yes, but if you're going to do it, he has to do something that is relevant to you. And says, okay, what do you feel right now? He says, I just feel I have to go through all these hopes. I just want to put my feet back on the earth. I says, there you go. I says, but I mean, well, how you feel? He says, I feel like I'm falling in the damn void. He says, there you go.
That feeling became Gravity,
Wow.
a survival thriller. Sandra Bullock lost in space, spinning out of control, trying to come back down to Earth.
And thanks to him, we started structuring the whole thing. And it says, you see, at the end, maybe you do a personal film.
He didn't write about being broke. He didn't write about depression. He wrote what it felt like. Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver, Raging Bull...
Oh, yeah. Y'all can't be watching this informational shit while I'm reheating my food. Y'all gotta wait, you feel me? Wait a minute. Wait, alright, wait. Back. What's going on?
Bull and First Reformed has this way of talking about writing that feels more like therapy.
You begin
Oh, sh.
with yourself.
Start selling y'all?
You are the raw material.
He gives his students this exercise.
Why'd
Write
it
down
get
your
blocked?
biggest personal problem. Not a plot idea, not a character. Just the thing you're carrying. Then ask yourself, what's the metaphor for that? Because that's the thing about powerful storytelling. It's not the literal story that hits you. It's the feeling underneath it, translated into something new. For example, someone who's hiding their sexuality, who spends their life hiding who they are, that doesn't have to turn into a coming out story. It could become a spy thriller. Because being closeted can feel like being undercover. Always scanning the
Come
room.
on now.
Always keeping track of what version of yourself is safe
Whoa.
to show. Even the people who love you don't fully know you. It's not the literal story. It's your experience,
Shit, come on.
disguised as a story.
Because you're actually talking about the problem without talking about the problem.
That's what Paul Schrader did with Taxi Driver too. He was broke, alone, disconnected from the world, and then it clicked. He was already living the metaphor. A man in a taxi, surrounded by people, yet completely alone, broke, alone, disconnected from the world, and then it clicked. He was already living the metaphor. A man in a taxi, surrounded by people, yet completely alone, watching life through a windshield. That became Travis Bickle.
I mean, I wrote the script essentially for myself as therapy. And so it was something I was surprised at the degree to which a large number of people plugged into my own neurosis.
So, the story might be familiar, but how you see it, that's the part no one else can do. Because here's the thing, there are only so many plots, but if your problem is real and your metaphor is honest, those old stories come alive again, poured through you like new wine in old bottles. So maybe it isn't about finding this genius one-in-a-lifetime idea, but rather tuning into what already exists around you, or inside you, and expressing it in a way only you could. But interpretation doesn't always start with personal pain or metaphor. Sometimes it starts with someone else's story, and what you do with it. Take Oldboy, for example. It was based on a Japanese manga, which was itself loosely inspired by Dumas' The Count of Monte Cristo. But Park Chan-wook didn't just adapt it. He completely reinterpreted it through his own lens. He kept the premise. A man mysteriously imprisoned for years, then released and told to figure out why. But then he flipped the question. Not why was he locked up, but why was he let go? The story became a modern Greek tragedy, filled with taboo, guilt, and emotional punishment. None of that was in the manga. It came from Park. His vision, his obsessions, his culture, his own unique filmmaking style. That's interpretation. And speaking of applying your own style of filmmaking, let's look at a filmmaker who didn't just reinterpret a story. He changed what a genre could be. Sergio Leone took Kurosawa's Yojimbo and reimagined it as a fistful of dollars. He didn't copy it. He transformed it, creating the spaghetti western. This wasn't a regular western. He slowed the pacing, cut scenes to music, used silence like tension, framed shots like
Sergio Leone.
Leone made Western heroes dangerous and sexy in a way they had never been before. Before him, Westerns were about noble cowboys and clear morality. His West was gritty, lawless, ambiguous. Survival mattered more than virtue. And in doing so, he created an entirely new genre. It wasn't a new story, it was a new language. But sometimes the genre stays the same, and it's the personal story inside that makes it powerful.
Hey,
like a movie about aliens, something we've seen 100 times, can feel completely original when it's filtered through someone's life.
The whole movie for me grew out of growing up in South Africa, and so my experiences growing up as a kid are reflected very accurately in the film.
Neil Blomkamp grew up in apartheid-era Johannesburg, and when he made his first feature, he didn't write a historical drama or a documentary. He made a science fiction film about aliens forced into slums, but it wasn't really about aliens. It was about what it felt like to live inside segregation, to grow up in a system built on categories, fences, and forced removals. And by telling it that way, he turned his experience into something that we could universally understand. He took something massive, sci-fi, and used it to say something deeply personal and political. He didn't show the problem directly, he interpreted it. That's why District 9 landed so hard. Now compare that to his later movies. They had bigger budgets, more visual effects, but they didn't land the same way. Maybe because they started from concept, not from something lived. They didn't carry the same personal weight. They didn't feel interpreted. They felt designed. One was born from personal experience, the others from concept. So, whether it starts with a metaphor, a feeling, or a genre you grew up loving, what matters is that it's honest and that it's yours. Maybe that's what Tarantino meant all along. Make the version of the story that only you can.
good, bad, or indifferent, Reservoir Dogs didn't really exist before I did it. Heist films had been made. Hong Kong movie, City on Fire. If you've ever seen City on Fire, it's very, very different from my movie. The section that they say I took, I did take from it. All right, absolutely, I took from it. But it's a very different movie. They actually talked to the director, Ringo Lam. He goes, "Wow, Tarantino took the last 10 minutes of my movie, made an entire movie about it." You know, there was Barry Levinson and Tin Men, and there was Goodfellas, and there was all kinds. There's the David Mamet stuff. All that stuff existed. That was sort of like Reservoir Dogs, but it wasn't Reservoir Dogs. It didn't have this aesthetic that I'd been having. It was never just there. I mean, if it was just there, if 2 or 3 other people were doing it, I might have been a filmmaker because I didn't need to get it out of my head.
So maybe it's not about chasing the next great idea or inventing something no one's ever thought of. Maybe it's about making something no one else could have made because it came through you.
Sure, making something that nobody else can because it can do. Right now, no questions. Oh shit. Or 6. I'm with it. But I gotta drop on my cousin. I ain't gonna lie. So when I finish this video, I'm about to be done eating my wings.
What would your life look like if you loved the process?
Let's watch this. Come on,
of
you
working on your craft?
romanticize. Look, TJ, what video should you watch right here? The Art of Asking. Right here.
Have you ever struggled to complete a task that should have taken 90 minutes, yet after 8 hours of slaving away,
We're going back to the podcast.
What would your...
Listen, this is the best video. I'm jagging it.
Muscle tissue. You're hearing those vibrations.
This is how you talk.
Deeper, more resonant to you. So when you hear your voice, you're like, "Ooh, I sound like Barry White." So you think you have this deep, rich voice because you're hearing it through a different medium. Whereas when you open your mouth and you speak to another person, the medium is not muscle and bone; it's through air.
Watch this.
So it's less dense. So it sounds higher pitched. So one of the main reasons people hate it immediately is they go, "Oh, what? Why do I sound like this?" Whereas in actual reality, it's because it's going through a different medium. One's going through bone and one's going through muscle. The other one's going through the air.
So this is why I thought I could sing, and then when I recorded singing and I played it back, I was dreadful.
Made the same error.
I couldn't believe it. I thought something was wrong with the recorder.
Yes, and that's what happens to everybody. And it's also the same thing with why people hate themselves on camera. It's because you see yourself in the mirror, and you see yourself the way you see yourself in the mirror. Then you see yourself in camera, and it's flipped the other way, and you go, "Whoa! Why I don't look like that? Why does this part of my face look different?" Well, it's because that's what everybody else sees, but you've been looking at yourself in the mirror your entire life. You've been listening to yourself through bone tissue and muscle your entire life.
So how do I overcome that?
Desensitization. You have to listen to yourself. Do you still care about your voice? Do you still listen to it? Yeah, you don't care anymore. You love the sound of your voice now, don't you?
I wouldn't say I love it, but I'm so used to it. It doesn't make me cringe anymore.
Because you've desensitized.
Yeah.
Because you're now hearing what other people hear, and again, that's why you should record videos of yourself. And I still think that record a review thing, if that's the one thing you do after this, it's gonna, if you pick 3 things to change after you do that process, it's gonna radically shift the way you come across when you speak. Imagine you are only 3 changes away from completely transforming. That's all that it takes. I've seen my students do this time and time and time again, and I wish I was able to show you in these video examples when all of a sudden they just shift more melody, more volume, larger body language. It's a different human being. It's crazy. And again, I'm not saying be that all the time. It's now you having gears, right? It's like a car. Most people just 1 gear. And I'll bring that 1 gear, that 1 communication style to every interaction.
What's somebody saying?
Why is that not effective?
Do you think this whole introvert-extrovert thing is bullshit?
I asked my vocal teacher this, and I said, like, what's the difference? And she asked me this question in return, where she said, that pianist you saw at the concert I took you to, if they're an extrovert, how would it be different when when they play the piano. And if they're an introvert, how would it be different? And I said, I've no idea. It's the same thing. Just you're playing your instrument. The only difference between introvert and extrovert is an introvert, they lose energy from social interaction. So you have to be highly vigilant. You have to be highly diligent when you're expending that energy and you're playing the music for people. You have to be extremely diligent. Whereas those who are extroverts, they can play it for a longer extended period of time. So again, for an extrovert, it's just about choosing when you do that, choosing when you play beautifully, as opposed to, oh, I'm an introvert. I should just talk about this then because I'm an introvert.
Okay, more soda. Where's really?
Social anxiety. Some people do have severe social anxiety. So many of the things they might have clicked on this conversation because they're interested, but they have no belief in themselves that they can ever change because they literally, their body goes through almost like a panic attack when they're in these social situations. What do you say to those people?
It's the slow process of desensitization. It really is. I find it. Exposure therapy, yes. I find it, and I was that. I mean, the only reason I learned magic in my life was because I felt like I had no value. And I had to go learn a whole craft to have value so that I could be amazing, because by myself I'm not amazing. That's why I learned magic, because I felt like I wasn't amazing. And then when I had this amazing thing, then everyone thought I was amazing. I was like, oh, I'm amazing now. But then one day I forgot my cards at school, and then all of a sudden I went home and then I had some social interactions. I went, oh, I'm not amazing. What I'm trying to say here is, instead of picking something like magic and then using that as a crutch, because I did. And then in every conversation with you, I would have to do magic with you first before I do anything else. Because if I didn't, I don't feel confident. Now I feel like I have nothing to give. So to me, this is why I push communication skills so much. Let me share with you a story. Let me give you a little bit of context. When I was 13, I went to year 8 camp, freshman camp. I had a really good friend at the time named Kevin. I saw him playing ukulele around the fire camp. And for the first time I saw Kevin talk to girls. Me and Kevin bonded over the fact we would never talk to girls because I couldn't do it, he couldn't do it, and we bonded over that. That night he broke that trust. Because he was talking to girls, he was playing his ukulele, and it was amazing. And I felt so pissed off at him. I ran back to the cabin. And the next morning I went, oh, the only friend I have here is now talking to girls. And then the next morning I see him at the breakfast table by himself. And I was like, what? This guy was the bee's knees last night, and now he's by himself. What the frick? And I didn't understand that for the life of me. And then I experienced it in my life with cards. When I have a packet of cards, I could talk to anyone. But then when I didn't have my cards, I couldn't talk to anyone. I had crippling social anxiety. And I went, oh, this is what we call contextual confidence. Oh, interesting. So in certain contexts, I'm more confident. Even the people you're talking about who are anxious, there are certain contexts where they are contextually confident. And they light up. There's a certain topic that if someone talks about it, they might think of themselves as being a bad communicator, but because that topic comes up, they now are a great communicator. Right? So then the idea of contextual confidence led me to really working out that communication skills is such a critical skill set. Why? Because if I master the use of my voice, if I master the use of my body language, I master the ability to storytell, can I leave my voice at home? Can I leave my body language? Can I leave my ability to storytell and connect with other people at home? You can't. Now you have this ability that follows you everywhere you go, meaning you become contextually confident in every single area of your life.
Do you get tired when you go home?
Yes, 100%.
I can imagine, because you are high energy.
Because I choose to give.
Yeah.
I'm consciously choosing to do that. And there are times when I choose not to. So that in the times where I do give, I can give you the best version of me. I didn't leave our interview today was 4 p.m., right? I didn't leave the hotel room at all day.
Why?
Because I'm conserving that energy for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And to the point where my videographer was asking me, he said, hey dude, are you alright? And then he goes, look, just and he was, I love him, he was so concerned about me, he goes, just wave to me outside of your window so I can see you. And I opened the door, I was like, oh, this door opens, and I waved, I was like, hey Peter, and he's like, oh, cool.
Well, you swear?
Because I didn't leave my hotel room, right? Because I was conscious of that.
Crazy.
I was just conscious.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's alright. I was already jet lagged. I didn't want to be shit.
No, but I can relate as well, because I sometimes wonder if energy is finite, or if
it is.
I do this podcast and then
Hey, appreciate the light, JC.
Go into the real world, and I don't want to have. I'm depleted.
Yeah.
And I always wondered if that's something I could do something about. If I just need to buck up and just, try and
There's only so much of that you can do, and it is a limited supply. That's why it's so beautiful when someone is willing to sit and be present and play their instrument with you, because it's a conscious thing. Whereas I used to approach every interaction with, bring the bare minimum, and I didn't understand that exchange of energy. You get so much more out of life when you give more, not just with money and time, but with your energy. Yes. There's a transaction here that's happening that's invisible. And I treat it's so weird, and it doesn't happen because I have a lot of followers. Lots of people don't know who I am. On the way here, I got upgraded on my flight because I just built connection with the person, and I thought, you know what, this person's probably had a lot of boring conversations. I'm just gonna make them laugh. So I just spoke, make them laugh, and they're like, and it happens. I feel like I've just found this cheat code in life where I keep my energy when I need it, and when there are times I need it, I'll use the energy.
Like a currency.
Yeah, it is, and I didn't think they were going to give me an upgrade, but they did, which was so cool, right?
What?
And they felt good.
Wait, that just went right through my head.
Hypnotize them or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Imagine, it's an. So I just spoke, make them laugh, and they're like, and I treat it's so weird, and it doesn't happen because I have a lot of followers. Lots of people don't know who I am. On the way here, I got upgraded on my flight because I just built connection with the person, and I thought, you know what, this person's probably had a lot of boring conversations. I'm just gonna make them laugh. So I just spoke, make them laugh, and they're like, and it happens. I feel like I've just found this cheat code in life where I keep my energy when I need it, and when there are times I need it, I'll use the energy.
Like a currency.
Yeah, it is, and I didn't think they were gonna give me an upgrade, but they did, which was so cool, right? And they felt good too.
You probably hypnotize them or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Imagine, it's an energy bribe.
Going back to what you said earlier, you said that you're at a phase in your life where you're struggling with the thought that when is enough enough?
Yeah, it's been really hard. Yeah. I mean, are you feeling this? Because as you build your personal brand, as this podcast reaches more people, as it is already, as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, more and more and more opportunities come along. The momentum gets faster and faster and faster. It becomes harder now to steer.
What is that struggle, though? So, struggle implies that there's two forces pulling in two different directions. So, describe both forces to me.
There's a part of me that is very ambitious. But my identity now has been upgraded. I'm not just entrepreneur, I'm dad. And there's a pull between the entrepreneur in me and the dad in me.
And it's mutually exclusive.
Yes. And they're both so strong. And I've never felt it this strong. My daughter's about to turn 1. My son's 7, turning 8. And these forces now, Stephen, are so strong because my father was so good in my life. Such a pillar in my life that I used to be away 180 days a year. Right? I missed out on so much of my son's upbringing. And I don't want to make that same mistake. And again, I didn't realize there was this, I didn't see the correlation between success and sacrifice. I drank the Kool-Aid. I thought, you can have everything. You can have everything. And I haven't found a way to do that because the more success I have, there's sacrifice that comes right behind it. You know, and I just am learning what is the amount of sacrifice that I'm willing to. And we save ourselves from doing those same actions in the next 6 months. And then the things that made us feel good, we go, all right, those go in more of category. So now how can we do more of those things that made us feel good? So the way I protect myself from that is by doing this process. But even then, the push and pull it's always ever present. That struggle is always there.
What is your ambition?
I told you about my 2 kids. Right? I had very selfish ambitions early on in my career. Very ambitious. My own. Which was to make a lot of money. To be able to do all these different things that I wanted to do in the material world and all of that. And then my son was born. And he was born in 2017. And we were in America. And we were first-time parents, and we didn't know what to expect. We didn't have many friends while we were here, and we were super isolated. So we didn't have other kids around my son. And I'll still remember this trip I went on to Japan with my cousin and her husband. They're both psychologists. And we're 1 week into that trip. And I remember them saying, hey, we have something really important we need to talk to you about. And I was like, what the hell, guys? Why are you being more serious. What's going on? And they sat my wife and I down and they said, we think Xander is autistic, my son. And at that point, because I thought it was because of me being away. I thought it was because I'm away so much that you didn't want to connect with me. And they confirmed that they said all these things. Eye contact. Maybe he won't be verbal. Maybe. It was one of the most difficult periods of my life. And then my wife leaned over and she said, do you think it's by chance that one of the greatest things that people who are on the spectrum struggle with, you're really great at? Do you think it's by chance that he came to us? And at that point, I was not teaching communication skills really yet. And it's almost a very selfish goal. But the reason I teach it is because I think you know that one of the main things that happens when you teach something, Stephen, is that you become better at it. You deepen your knowledge in that arena. You get better at teaching it. You get better and better and better at teaching it. A big part of my ambition in this chapter of life is to get so good at teaching this that I can help my son. You know, now my son talks. My son gives me eye contact. Just last year, my son did the most amazing thing where I was teaching a class filled with hundreds of people. And he just walks up on stage, grabs the mic, and talks. And asks me if can I have this book, Dad? I'm like, yes, of course you can. He did something that scared every single person in that room. And we didn't push him to do it. And how do we make that happen? He came to that theater with me 30, 40 times. First times, you stand outside the theater, you just listen to Dad's voice. Then you open the door, you stand in there, and you can kind of see Dad from afar. Too much, okay, that's all right, you got overwhelmed, just step back out. And just step by step by step by step, my son was able to gradually walk on stage and do the thing he did. And I just went, wow, this is so cool. Because me teaching this, I've understood now, wow, I can break it down to micro steps for you. And selfishly, that's such a big part of my ambition right now, is how can I get so good at teaching this that I can help my son overcome one of his most challenging difficulties that he'll experience in his life.
Incredibly beautiful. Your father as well,
yeah,
was and is an incredible person.
Yeah.
You were telling me a little bit about him before, but I also did some research on the life he lived and what he went through and his brothers and his family, and it was incredible. And he is now a monk.
And my mum.
Tell me about that conversation.
Yeah, Mum and Dad, before I moved to the US, we sat around a kitchen table like this, and they said, hey, we've got a big bombshell to drop on you, and we want to become monks. Right? We've been playing the money game, we've been playing the status game, and we're suffering. We're suffering, and we've been following Buddhism for years, and we find so much peace in this pathway.
He said we're suffering?
Yeah.
So how?
We would buy a new car because one of my uncles bought a new car. We'd buy a new house, and a two-story house, because one of my uncles bought a two-story house. And I watched my dad play this, and I saw it, and it got to the point where we got a jet ski, and we didn't have a boat license. So what are we doing with the jet ski? And it became this weird moment where I was like, oh, Dad, can we take it out? Oh, no, we can't, because none of us have a boat license. So Dad had his own suffering in his life. He went from nothing in Australia to building incredible businesses with his brothers. Right? They started one of South Australia's first grocery stores, and then they went to buy pharmacies and restaurants and takeaway stores. They did the commercial property, residential property. So they built all this up.
And they'd fled from...
They fled from war. So they started from nothing in Australia. And I watched them do that. Right? The most memorable thing that led me to this path of entrepreneurship that I am in now is I saw them. We would have 3 bedrooms in the house. One was for sleeping. The other 2 were sewing rooms. And then after you finish sewing all day, you go outside, you peel onions, and you get paid 50 cents per 20-kilo bag of onion that you peel. You get 50 cents for that whole bag peeled. And then after that, every part of our garden was dug up to grow vegetables that we'll sell for 10 cents a bunch at the local grocery store. And then after that as well, they would also cook these delicious things in Vietnamese called bánh tét, and then we would cook them and sell them for 50 cents each inside the house, right? And that's what we were doing. So I watched them do that, to then buying a farm, to then realizing that, the farmers sell to an agent, the agent sells it to grocery stores. We should save up money. Saved up for years, bought a grocery store. So then we became the farm, we became the grocery store, right? And I just watched them do all of these different things. And that's what he meant by suffering, is that they were playing that money game and they were playing that status game. And they felt there was an exhaustion to it. When we had that conversation, there was such exhaustion there. And I remember feeling it, what made me think, because it got up my head, I was thinking, oh, you just want to get a divorce. But then when I felt the exhaustion of it, I went, oh, are you exhausted of each other? Or I went, wow, there's a game you're playing and you're so exhausted. And you found freedom because you're so excited for this other thing.
And this other thing was becoming a monk.
Becoming a monk, they renounced everything.
Renounced everything?
Yeah. And then I became the person that then had to give some of the things that they needed. I think one of the greatest gifts that my parents have given me is not giving me an inheritance. It's one of the greatest things that, at the time, I wanted to negotiate that so bad. I was like, 20%, can we just split it a little bit? But one of the greatest things they did, because they didn't kill my drive.
Was it a lot of stuff they had?
Yeah, they had money. Millions. Yeah. And then and then I almost had it. Then there's a part where, and again, to be completely truthful with the journey, then I was like, oh, but then now...
I'll be back.
Now I need to help you.